I'm here as head of Skanska here in the UK, Development and Construction Company, but perhaps more importantly for this session, chair of the Green Construction Board. The Green Construction Board sits underneath the Leadership Council for Construction 2025. So this is the industrial strategy for construction, owned by industry and government, working very much in a partnership to drive the industry forwards. Addressing the two key questions that have been asked for this session, I just want to bring out a couple of points on each. So, how can infrastructure be made more sustainable? Well, under Construction 2025, the whole low carbon and sustainable construction piece represents a big part of the strategy, and we have set a number of quite bold targets around all of the key themes. As far as low carbon is concerned, our target is 50% reduction in emissions by 2025, and that sits very neatly in line with the targets that were talked about earlier, the overriding target that's a legal requirement to get to 80% reduction by 2050. Within the Green Construction Board, quite early on, 2 or 3 years ago now, we produced what we called a route map to try and help give us a view of what the trajectory would look like, not just in terms of how we would get to where we are today, as was shown a few moments ago, but how we would get towards 2050. And there are a number of scenarios that were looked at, and in the boldest scenario, we only just get to this 80% reduction, and that's of course based on what we know today and assuming that we adopt everything possible in every single area in order to get there. So we already know that achieving those targets today are quite a stretch. Now within the route map, we're doing some work right now around understanding the progress that have been made, and we're looking at more the capital and operational carbon compared to some of the work that Matthew has done. But we're going to publish this work, by the way, towards the end of this month. But what we're seeing is that this uptick in the economy, whilst it's very welcome in terms of industry at large, it is having a negative impact on carbon emissions, which I guess is no surprise to us. We've all heard about the 100 billion pipeline of infrastructure projects that exists, and subject to what happens next week, this does appear to be very real. And Matthew has outlined some of the benefits that this new pipeline can bring upon the low carbon infrastructure in the future. But I think it's essential that we all work together to help bring this about. So it's about businesses embracing the agenda. It's about environmental industries, such as many in here in the room today, and also government working together to achieve this. And I think there are perhaps two areas to bring out in this regard. There is low carbon construction, and there's emerging new technologies. As far as low carbon construction is concerned, I think it's important to have a whole life approach to infrastructure, because we often focus on the capital carbon, the embodied carbon created during construction of the asset, but often the operational carbon is much greater. So when we're designing and constructing these assets, it's important to have the whole life cycle of the project in mind. Now, through the Green Construction Board, working together with Treasury, we produced back in 2013 the Infrastructure Carbon Review. And one of the key sort of conclusions from this report is that actually if you focus on low carbon, you can also achieve the benefit of reducing cost. And as you might imagine, Treasury thought this was marvellous, and quite right too. But there were three key actions that this report highlighted as well. The first, and I think this is important on everything to do with sustainability is it requires strong leadership. The second is that we need to bring innovation to the party, to identify and implement new thinking. And thirdly, that procurement needs to incentivise the whole supply chain to bring it about. Now, alongside those things, I think you also need early involvement, because unless the supply chain comes together very early, then you can't really make the maximum, you can't achieve the maximum benefits from all of this. There's a very good example with Anglian Water, and in fact Chris Newsom from Anglian Water heads up the infrastructure working group that we have. And we as Skanska are involved together with this client in their asset management programme. Over the last 5 years, which is just completed in March of this year, together the Alliance has achieved a 55% reduction in capital carbon, a 41% reduction in operational carbon, and a 25% reduction in cost. Now those achievements are very close to, in one case ahead of, the 2025 industrial strategy target. So it shows that it can be done with this strong leadership. Today we have over 50 organisations signed up to the infrastructure carbon review. Thames Tideway is indeed one of them. And we work together to try and help share best practice and to help people along that journey as well. Right now we're working on a new British standard, or PAS, which is a public accessible specification, which helps define how you measure the carbon and how you work towards reducing the carbon. And that will be available in the spring of next year. Now, in terms of emerging technologies, I know there was a big piece this morning on that, so perhaps not to say too much about it, but I do think it's important to drive innovation in this area, touching on many of the points that Matthew mentioned, low emission vehicles, low carbon heat systems, etc., etc. I think building information modelling, BIM, helps us to model not only the construction itself and the operation part of the asset itself, but it also helps us to model green solutions and to compare green solutions within that model. I think data also plays a very big part, and in many of the programs that we're involved with today, there's a big focus on data, because it really is going to transform our thinking and the way we go about implementing solutions in the future. So what opportunities will the new infrastructure spend mean for UK environmental firms? Well, first off, there's going to be a continued growth in jobs, green jobs. And it's reckoned that the increase will be from something like 1 million in 2013 up to 1.4 million in 2020. Now that's set against the skill shortages that we face across construction, but particularly in infrastructure right now, where we think that infrastructure is going to increase in spend by about 50% over the next 5 years. So that's a big challenge for all of us. And I think we all have our part to play here. Back with the Green Construction Board, we focused a lot on skills and about upskilling people when it comes to the whole sustainability and green space. And what we'd like to see is, rather than sending people off onto specialist courses, we'd like to see the whole sustainability agenda become very much part of mainstream education, so that it's just part of everything that we do. So in conclusion, I think there's a big piece around leadership. I think there's an obligation on all of us to play our part and to collaborate at project level, at programme level. You've just heard one example with Tideway. But then I would say also to collaborate with a capital C right the way across the industry, to come together and drive solutions for the benefit of the industry and for the benefit of the society in which we work. Thank you.